Yo, what's good, y'all? I get a lot of questions about like how I make my wintfyenb, and also like how are my loops so long. A lot of my loops, the loop file ends up being like at least over 10 minutes usually when I make wintfyenb. So, and this is one of my favorite beats, and it's also one of my most complex. So I just wanted to go over it with y'all real quick. And if I make any mistakes, I apologize. This is my first time really doing something like this. But yeah, let's just get into it. I'm gonna show you piece by piece how I made everything. First of all, I just want to say a big shout out to Kiyoshi. Like, he passed me over the FLP when it was at like its beginning stages. So I say like really Kiyoshi did like 25% of the work for this beat. This beat is pretty complex, so I apologize if the video gets really long. But yeah, for the chords, for tips on how to make the chords, I say for pluggnb, general pluggnb, I'd say minor 9 sounds good a lot of times. But really, I don't know anything about music theory. You gotta just experiment and like, you gotta just put in the notes that sound good to you, and you gotta train your ear. Just go with what your ears are telling you, go with what your heart is telling you. Like, make something that speaks to you, you know what I mean? But for wintfyenb, one thing that I can say is that it's very good to have a lot of notes in the middle of the chords. Don't just let a chord play all the way. I mean, you can, but I'd say have a lot of notes in the middle of it, and it really gives it that romantic feeling, you know? But anyway, let's just play it real quick. So if you do the chords right when it comes to wintfyenb, each chord should be playing its part perfectly, and like each chord should be doing its own job, like filling its own frequency range. And then if you play them all at once, it's gonna sound like, you know, one big piano. It's not gonna be like messy and stuff if you do it right. It's gonna sound like one big piano playing, even though on this beat I got 4, sometimes I have 5 even. And then let's get into some of the background sounds that you want to have, like some things that really give it that texture and that fullness. You know, you want to have a lot of like background sounds that even if maybe you can't even hear them in the full mix when everything is going on at the same time, like they're still playing its role, they're still adding to the texture, they're still, you know, making your beat sound more and more full and more like, you know, there's hella things going on. And I feel like that's the whole thing about wintfyenb. Like wintfyenb, it's a lot of overproduction, but keeping it sounding beautiful and majestic at the same time. So I'm gonna just go over like some of the stuff that I added for background sounds. For this sound right here, really what I always do, I always use this sound, and what I do usually 99% of the time is literally just follow the bass notes. Just follow the bass notes. So for bass guitar, since I did 90s R&B for this one, the bass guitar is going to be hitting at the same time as the kick a lot of times, and it's gonna basically magnify the kick and make the kick hit even harder. So I just follow the root notes of the chords, but I let it hit a couple times, like each bar and stuff like that. Sometimes I even go off the root note and I'll go to some other notes that I used in the chord. just to like give it more feeling and more movement, you know. Just give it a little bit of movement if you're doing like 90s R&B. Not required, but I'm just saying my preferences and stuff like that. So now that we got like the basic starting points of a melody, now let's get to the drums, which is pretty simple. I'm gonna just play it for y'all real quick. So yeah, it's some pretty simple stuff, but it might seem complicated to some people. So really, let me just simplify it. For my starting point of making some drums for some 90s R&B type stuff, let me just show y'all exactly what I do for this. So basically, I just go right here, I click fill each 4 steps, and then boom, you got this now. What I do from there is literally I just kind of edit it a bit to make it sound smooth, give it more movement, whatever I'm feeling like for the beat. But really, that's the starting point right there. And then you could add some hats. Like I like the hat to hit at the same time as the kick, you know. And something I've been starting to do recently is like in between the hat have a ride hitting, you know, like this right here. Or it could also hit at the same time as the hat if you want to give the hat like a little bit of length, you know? Because the ride and the hat don't really sound that different if you're using right sound selection. So they kind of blend in together, you know? Like, look. So now let's get into like each section and what I did for each section in terms of melody now. Something that you probably don't even know that you're hearing, but it added a lot is this little guitar right here. So from the intro to the bass drop, what I did is in the intro I didn't have the bass guitar playing, and also I wanted to give it even more fullness when the bass drop hit. So then I added this little like guitar, like electric guitar, like that's mainly just playing in the lower frequencies. It's not really filling up too much, but it's giving that lower frequency like even more fullness. I'm like 99% sure that that's literally just playing the bass notes, so nothing really complicated. It's just playing the bass notes and making the bass sound more full, even though the bass is cut off. It's really just lower frequencies. For this section, I started off with just this guitar right here. As you can tell, I have like a little note at the end which plays for 2 bars. So this instrument is actually 10 bars long, and people usually make their melody like at all times only 8 bars, which I think is pretty stupid. Like, you shouldn't be lazy when you're making these type of beats, so add that little extra, you know, fade away at the end. It's gonna help transition to the next 8 bars. And for wintfyenb type beats, I like to make each 8 bars feel like a whole new story. Like every 8 bars telling a whole different story. That was cool, but not really enough. Like I wanted to add more and more and more, because for me what I love about wintfyenb is like you could always add more and more. So then I had this guitar playing at the same time as that. I added some volume automation to make it sound like it's fading away as it's playing, it's like a long note. And then this is how it sounds, both of them together. Pretty crazy, pretty crazy. You basically, for the melodies of wintfyenb, it's going to be a common theme. You just want to have many different melodic elements synchronizing together. Like, yeah, I get that I'm using like 30 different sounds for my melodies, but at the end of the day, they're all synchronizing and working together to form like kind of like a symphony, you know? So it's not like I'm doing too much, even though I am doing too much at the same time, if you get what I'm trying to say. Oh, that's that 8 bars in terms of melodic differences. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, for this one, started off with this little synth flute right here that Kiyoshi made. Let me play it for y'all real quick. As y'all could tell at the end, I let the note play out for like an extra bar. So that little melodic element is actually 9 bars long. It's another thing to get it transitioning even better into the next 8 bars. So it's not like something that's cut off immediately as soon as it hits the 8 bar. Like, I feel like a lot of producers feel like that's an imaginary rule, that everything needs to be 8 bars. It kind of sounded really weak on its own, so then let me find it. So boom, I added a little bit of distortion. I still feel like it sounded weak, so then I added some extra leads playing basically the exact notes as that one, with just some slight differences. So then I added 3 different leads that basically played the exact same notes as that, each playing like a different part and filling up a different frequency. So let me just show y'all that real quick. Also, as you can see, each one has these little automations at the end to make it transition smoothly into the next 8 bars. So these are actually 9 bars long each, basically. And at the same time, the long notes, like, you know, these right here, this, I did volume automation so that they don't just sound static. Like, they're long, so then they fade away. I mean, at least I feel like that's how it should be. So I got this lead right here. Let me just play it for y'all. And then I have another lead right here, basically playing the exact same thing at the same exact time as well. Same story with the volume automation. The long notes are fading away, making it sound more smooth, etc. That really is synchronized with the synth flute because they play basically the exact same notes. And then I have this tiny lead right here doing the same exact job, just layering it with the synth flute just to make it all sound more full. Yep, same story with the volume automation, as you can see. And then the synth flute, the tiny lead, this lead right here, and this lead right here. Oh yeah, something I forgot to mention is that this lead and the one that I showed in the bottom, these two are panned. One is panned to the left and one is panned to the right. So even though there's all these sounds going on, each of them is taking their own space. One is on the left, one is on the right, you know? They're each taking their own space, but together they sound good because of that. So I have all these leads right here and they're all working to make the synth flute sound full. So then these 4 leads together sound like this. So if I were to play everything, which I'm not, but if I were to play everything of this section together, it would probably sound like There's really only like one, maybe two synths going on at the same time, but as you can see, there's 4 of them. But the way I mixed it, the way I automated the volume, they're all working together to synchronize, like I said. So then let's go to the next section then. So for this one, Kiyoshi did this little lead right here, pretty repetitive, but it's kind of like a verse section, like a build up section. So having something pretty repetitive is cool, whatever. So the next section is going to be like where I have the most elements. So I feel like just that one lead wasn't really doing it. So I wanted to add a little texture. So I added this YVA lead. So if I were to play everything at once, that wouldn't really be audible, but I mean, I could feel the difference. A lot of the background sounds and a lot of the stuff I do, can't really hear it when everything is going on, but you feel the difference. So I wanted something that also complements this PW lead. So then I added a little kind of similar lead that kind of does the same thing, kind of like wobbling, but in a different way, like this. That was already pretty good, but I'm like, you know, for wintfyenb, like I'm always asking myself like, okay, like what else could I do? And I feel like for some reason this section, the lower frequencies and mid frequencies, it felt like I really couldn't add anything to it, or it would just be like too much. So I feel like I could still add a tiny bit of high end. So I added this velo sync, I think it's called. You don't know what notes to use, either use the highest notes in your chord or the bass notes. And I also did the same thing with automation. I made these long notes fade away, as you can see. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to the real crazy part of this. For the chorus, I started off with this lead from Kiyoshi. He did the first 8 bars, but to me, it was good, but it didn't really feel like crazy enough. Like, so that's the first 8 bars of this lead. All right, this lead is 19 bars long. So I kind of copy and pasted it over, but then I just added a tiny bit of variation. If you want to make your lead really long, you could copy and paste it, but then you got to modify it. So make it sound completely different, that at the same time, you know, you're not doing all that work. Other than just adding variation, I also pitched it up, like a bunch of notes that I had used previously, just pitched up. So when it sounds different, modified a bit. So it's really like a copy and pasted it, but made it completely different. And at the same time, you see this last note extending for over 2 bars long. That just transitions it into the next section. I'm gonna play the other half of it now. I'll just show y'all what I did to make it sound even crazier. So after I finished that lead, I started working on other leads to put around it, kind of amplify it a bit, I guess is the word. So I did a pulse lead, and at the same time, you peep it, the volume automation, the long notes are fading away. So let me just play it. Literally all I did for this is copy and paste the desolate lead, and then delete a bunch of notes and also extend some notes. So just keep the notes where I want it to be kind of amplified, and then extend it, and then volume automate it to for it to fade away. Then I got a saxophone and I basically did the exact same thing I just described. I just copy and pasted the desolate lead and then extended some notes. Volume automation at the end for transition. I did the same exact thing. I copy and pasted the desolate lead over to this lead, the tiny lead. Just deleted most of the notes and kept like notes that are right at the start of the bar, or like kind of like about to be at the start of a bar, so that every bar the tiny lead is amplifying the desolate lead, if you get what I'm saying. I actually went over here in this little knob right here. I basically just tweaked the release to make it sound very long instead of short, but it's like fading away without me even needing to do any volume automation. And this one is basically just filling up the higher frequencies. The saxophone was filling up a little bit of lower frequencies, so yeah, let me just play it for y'all real quick. Added this flute volume automation at the end to make a transition, like always. Literally just copy and pasted the desolate lead, but deleted a bunch of notes and then just extended these. The very last thing I did in terms of melody is I added this random guitar riff. Only other thing I can say is add a lot of effects, man. Like, don't be scared to add effects, but at the same time, make them all have a purpose. And then at the beginning, I had this little ambience. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I'll try to do these more often. If y'all like it, just let me know. But yeah, I'll see y'all. Have a good day.